He's our fifth Russian in the lineup today. He always talks about something very controversial. It's Anatoly Karlin. Come on up.
Hello. So I'm also going to talk about this puzzle, why do we not hear anything? And this is the very paradox, and the possibility is that there's this cannibal berserker civilization which is eating up any newly appeared civilizations. But there's another possibility, and it's what I would call, it's not more exotic actually, I'd call it a philosophical existential disk. But before I go into that, I will first I want to describe why it's worth considering them seriously. So as John said, there's 40 million, was it, planets in our solar system which are potentially capable of supporting life. But so far as we know, they're all silent. Whereas even if we will make really conservative assumptions for the big equation, then there should still be like several thousand, like a few hundred at least. And would it be that the other existential disks are so high that they are getting wiped out before they reach an advanced form, post-singularity form, presumably, where they can spread throughout the universe? Well, apart of we can classify existential disks into about 3 areas: natural existential disks, technogenic ones, and non-fusion. Natural ones, we're talking of supervolcanoes, asteroids, but they are really low disk per any unit of time. They operate on geological or cosmic scales. So probably the most one of the most realistic prospects from that category is, say, Yellowstone blowing up again. It blows up about once every 600,000 years. It blew up 600,000 years, 1.2 million years ago, and 2 million years ago. So it's more or less due. But there's a plus minus several tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years attached to it. So it's not worth fretting over. There's the technogenic disks, which have been covered quite diffusely by Anisimov. I actually think that our chances are a lot better than the 10% he posits. In particular, I would note that with AI, I kind of got the impression that he assumes that the AI that is going to appear is this monolithic Skynet type of personality, which behaves in a psychotic manner. There's nothing to stand against it. But in reality, I agree with Scott Jake. Is he here? Okay. Well, cool. Basically, I guess that it's that history. It's a cognitive network that's been exponentially growing throughout history, along with globalization. And likewise with AI, there's going to be lots of nodes appearing. There might be a Skynet type construct, but then counterbalancing it, Google is also going to do something simultaneously, and maybe Hank Pelisi is going to plant a big chip into his brain at the same time, and also enter the competition among this new post-human society. So basically, even if there are psychotic strong AIs, I assume it's more likely than not that there'll be a lot of counterbalancing forces which will constrain that strong AI, even just for purely selfish reasons. You don't really need any particular altruism to prevent one cycle from taking over. And finally, there's the Malthusian factors, existential disks, and these are primarily those which could severely impact our food producing system, primarily that could lead to a self-capitalizing collapse. So one possibility is that people talk about is peak oil, for instance, but which has been predicted by some who it's been predicted to be at around 2010. It actually seems to be more of a plateau, but even if it does peak, there's still loads of natural gas left lying around and coal as well, and it's still infeasible that it will peak before 2050 or so. And even then, easily 80% or so of energy consumption in modern industrialized societies, cutting it out won't have like the civilization destroying effect because it could easily be made up by efficiency improvements. And there's of course global warming. Now, absent some truly cataclysmic, almost sci-fi scenarios such as the methane collapse, so the methane collapse in Siberia, for instance, a few of those exotic scenarios. The worst effects probably won't manifest themselves, effects that are bad enough to threaten industrial civilization until the middle of the century. Conveniently enough, a lot of the forecasts, the futures forecasts, predict that that the area of self-sustaining AI growth and all that will come right about that time. So, in 2030, maybe it's about 2045. So, I mean, I think that we have a good chance of reaching the singularity or something resembling the singularity, maybe 75% or more. But even if it's more pessimistic, like someone argues, and it's 10%, nonetheless, there should logically be some civilizations that should have already managed to do that, and ages ago. One possibility for why they don't actually exist is those cosmic reasons that there's a hostile environment, which hostile a force of civilization, which destroys them immediately. But another possibility is that there are philosophical reasons for this. One of those is, which I was doing test by, is the simulation argument by McBoston. Oh, you have heard of that? Oh, quite a few of you. So let me quickly explain this. The basic argument goes that there's basically three mutually exclusive possibilities. Either we will all certainly go extinct, or civilizations do not do ancestors simulations. And the third possibility is that we live in a simulation. So to explain a so-called ancestor simulation is what a post-human civilization might potentially entertain itself with, i.e. simulating its own evolutionary capacity. And potentially could do, each of those could do millions of those simulations. So the number, if they do those ancestor civilizations, there can be expected to be many more of them than there are real civilizations. So either we go extinct or we live in a simulation. And if we live in a simulation, one consequence is that possibly there might not be computing power to simulate the entire universe. Possibly there'll only be enough computing power to simulate just the solar system. It's like with massive open world games. your computer doesn't load the entire map, it only loads a certain pages around you. So it could be another principle, and if our intelligence becomes too runaway and begins to spread beyond the solar system, at some point the simulation might crash. So that is one of those remote possibilities. Well, not remote, I mean, we can't assign any probabilities to that. But it's, I'm just basically implying that there could be these strange, exotic philosophical reasons why we have not met other civilizations. They either simulate, one can be simulating us, with thousands of others, and we just don't come into contact. Another possibility is that all civilizations simply follow a certain path dependence, like laws of some kind. So, for instance, one possibility could be that once they realize the mystery of the universe, they decide to commit suicide, or maybe commit suicide and raise another universe in their stead, like a phoenix. So, as this really good story by Asimov about that called The Last Question. I recommend you read it. It's only a few pages long, and so it's basically this AI civilization trying to work out the mystery of the universe, and it only has a few years left before all the energy dissipates and it's dead. And at the very last nanosecond, it realizes what the answer is, that there be light. So we could be operating on that model. Another form of suicide, I suppose, would be if there's post-singularity, we enter a kind of a constant drug-like high. So if we simply just spend all our energy just stimulating the pleasure zones in our minds, that could be a form of cultural existential risk, spiritual existential risk. At some point, we have to also define what precisely we mean by existential risk, because there will be many paths and many disciplines of what is and what is not. At the most basic level, the end of existence is certain, because humans will even under ordinary circumstances evolve into another species. It's a million years is the average life of any one species. A final possibility, well, one can come up with any number of them, but one which I particularly like. What do many people fear? What do many people who are interested in transhumanism and life extension in particular fear? They fear death. And say the advanced civilization discovers that there's no going into other universes, say because they conclusively establish that we're living in a simulation, or simply that laws of physics don't permit it. Instead, they could imagine their own reality and bring it into being. So enter their own simulation, but one in which the concept of a finite existence, beginning in birth and ending in death, is instead replaced by a karmic system of death and rebirth, possibly in various fantastic settings. Like of castles and knights and damsels in distress. So it's basically another kind of wandering into fantasy, but one where there's people know that there is a life after death, i.e. rebirth, and it's basically a cycle that continues perpetually. At least they are inside the simulation and they can't know any different. So it's basically a kind of psychological mechanism to preserve one's sanity in the vastness of a cold and indifferent universe. So, I hope I've stimulated the eye, enlightened it, and the imaginations.
Do we have questions? Over there.
Yeah.
Amanda.
It's not really a big question here. It's more of an indication because I hear Nick Bosterman's idea of simulation was brought up a lot, and then people immediately switch over to Ancestors, call it that. And my thinking is often why are we talking about Ancestors? It's perfectly fine the idea that when we have the capability, we love to simulate things and try out virtual worlds. Great. And we do gazillions of those. How many of those are really going to be ancestor simulations? I mean, how many times are you going to try that? There are so many other possibilities. So I think, sure, there's a fairly good probability that we may be living in a simulation, whatever you call that at that scale. Just, you know, that term ancestor simulation may not apply, but it could be any.
Well, exactly. I think that there are plenty of things going to simulate a big clump of love, which is basically inactive for gazillions of years before something actually interesting starts happening. And another thing is that those post-singularity civilizations, and this is also brought up by Boston, they might have ethical, develop a set of common ethical principles against the idea of developing these civilizations because presumably because there's more suffering in them than in post-singularity. And a third possibility is they might also ask what's even the point of simulating them. Say they discover that all of existence is basically just based on computation, that computation makes reality. In that case, it's already a simulation of itself. So what would be the point of digging in deeper when you could just play around with more interesting ones, like with these epic fantasy-based ones instead.
Yeah, I've got a question here.
Do you happen to know the different assumptions of the great equation? I don't know if you have a particular preference of parameters of the great equation, but do you know the different parameters of the great equation? How long other civilizations will need to exist for us to be able to statistically overlap them? Because if on average civilization only lasts for 10,000 years, then chances are they're not going to be within our radius of communication.
Yeah, possibly, and it's also possible that they simply retreat into their own inner space because they've already figured themselves out and simply start playing their own internal games, be it these fantasy simulations or being high all the time. Yeah. So I think that the standard assumption for the David equation was that it lasted 100 years, was it something?
I don't know.
But okay, yeah. I'm not an expert on it.
Okay, one more question. How about, go ahead.
If the common intelligence is setting up a simulation, that intelligence gets to create the laws of physics by which the simulation will run. And there's no way that they would choose they would make their job simple. They wouldn't make it as messy as the situation we had. They might have 92 chemical elements, and they would have some little knobs that turn to make their properties interesting for their purposes. They wouldn't be dependent on subatomic particles and quarks and all this
So you're saying that the only game basically would be Minecraft? And nothing more complex.
They certainly wouldn't have relativity. Why should the laws of physics be the same in every moving coordinate system?
You know what's one theory actually? It could be that the laws of physics really are extremely simple from that perspective, but the way it appears to us would not be so. And there's even an example of this with cellular automata. So Wolfram, I think, came up with the idea that the universe is just basically a self-computing cellular automata or something like that, which is based on really simple rules. So if you have two black squares next to each other, the one in the middle will be white, and it continues on. And it's still is well, it appears complicated to us because although a cellular automata has really simple rules, it can create really complex shapes and patterns. And actually, I think that the messiness that you see in some quantum effects in particular, they might actually be more evidence that something like this is going on rather than evidence against that.
You guys want to argue about